Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Two very quick things before we start off today's video. The first is, people keep saying to me, Az, what is that horrible beast, ladies, over your left shoulder? Well, if I tilt the camera, it's Geralt of Rivia. It's my Prime 1 Geralt of Rivia statue. He's got his foot on the decapitated head of a fiend and having a chit-chat with Batman. Secondly, huge thank you to everybody who purchased one of my charity mugs for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, October. Every single available mug has sold. There are no more mugs at all. Apart from my private stash. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Huge thank you. Over the course of the next couple of days or so, I'm going to tot up exactly how much we've made from it, because 100% of the profits are going to Breast Cancer UK. I can say early doors, though, it's looking really good. So I can't wait to share with you the full amount in a couple of days. So with that said, let's jump straight into this video, because I don't know how long it's going to be. Ladies, I don't know how long this video is going to be. It could go on for a while. If so, feel free to watch it in segments or grab some popcorn and get a big dose of Az. But do see a doctor afterwards. Preferably not Dr. Az. Right, first of all, it looks like HazaCostaSpot has received a couple of new algorithms and came across as quite personable and human in this presentation today. So well done to those people behind the scenes chinking away. And this is going to be a delve into exactly what Shadowbringers is going to be about, the story aspects of it, and the contents that they're going to be bringing out with it as well. So without further ado, no, people are like, shut up, woman, get on with it. Okay. So, what exactly is Shadowlands, or are the Shadowlands? Well, let me get the elephant out of the room. The elephant out of the room. Let me get the elephant that's in the room out. Let me deal with the elephant in the room. A lot of people are saying there are some significant similarities to Final Fantasy XIV's Shadowbringers. And yeah, there are some very superficial similarities. The name, Shadowbringers, Shadowlands. The way that the worlds were unveiled. In Shadowbringers, the Dark Knight tore the sky asunder, tore the light asunder for the darkness. In this, Sylvanas, fuck off, destroyed the Helmet of Damnation, and the sky ripped open to reveal the afterlife. Again, very similar sort of things. Shadowlands is a new realm altogether. In Shadowbringers, we're in a new realm. Same world, but a different version of how this world was created. So there's lots of superficial similarities with Final Fantasy XIV. Couple of content ones later on as well. But look, I know it's easy to poke fun, but at the end of the day, this is what all games do. This is what all games do. They look at things which are working, and I'm not specifically discussing this, I'm just talking in general now. They look for things which work, they look for things which people gravitate towards, and they take them. The original World of Warcraft, they took a lot from EverQuest in the design of World of Warcraft. So this is what happens, naturally. So I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm not going to do any sort of video about that. I think that's as far as we need to go until I start taking a piss later on. So first and foremost, what are the Shadowlands? What is the Shadowlands? The Shadowlands? So when you die in WoW, which in our case is a lot, your soul goes through to the Shadowlands, and then you are, in the blink of an eye, in the nth of a millisecond, judged by this mysterious arbiter character, and your soul goes somewhere, which we'll discuss in a moment. So in World of Warcraft, I take it our character's not meant to die multiple times, really. Really? You know, it's not like Destiny 2 where, yeah, it is designed that you die a lot and your ghost brings you back to life a lot. But in WoW, I think we've not meant to have died unless it's been specific points in the game's story where we are resurrected through, specific means again. But it talks about where major characters will go based on how they've conducted their lives, where Garrosh would go, where Uther would go, where Cenarius would go, etc. when they have died. So there's 4 realms, which we'll get to soon. And when your soul passes through to the Shadowlands, you have this force called Anima. And Anima can be very powerful based off how powerful you are as a character, how your presence has been felt on Azeroth during your lifetime. So that's sort of like a general overview. This is what it looks like. This is an early impression. I have to say this early doors. Do bear in mind, everything is subject to change. This is the BlizzCon reveal. Look at the BlizzCon reveal for Warlords of Draenor. Look at the last version of that. Anything is subject to change. So we have to take everything that we discussed today with a pinch of salt. So these are the 4 major zones. Revendreth, which looks awesome, by the way. We've got Ardenveld. We've got Bastion. Nerf Bastion. I'll get my coat. And we've got Maldraxxus. And then we have this mysterious one called the Maw, which we'll get to later on. And then Oribos, not Ouroboros, Oribos, they're not taking from Elder Scrolls Online, or is going to be a hub city for everybody. And this is where the Arbiter lives, and then your soul is judged, and then it goes to one of these zones here. On a very rare occasion, if your soul is deemed so, malevolent, beyond hope, redemption, whatever, that you can't exist in the afterlife, you'll be chucked into the Maw. Where the jailer, and we'll speak about that chap later, the jailer has got everything locked away. Not for long, probably. So, what are you going to do? You're going to arrive, and you're going to systematically this time go through the zones. You can't choose the zone that you want to do initially. There's going to be an overarching story, excuse me, which goes through the 4 zones to top level. I like that. To me, in recent years, although some zones have been hits, the self-contained stories in zones has been very hit and miss. And for the most part, to me, they've missed. I would rather have something interconnected that makes a load more sense. I'm sorry to reference Final Fantasy XIV. Well, I'm not sorry at all. Because the story that went through the leveling of Shadowbringers was unbelievably good. Unbelievably good. And you just systematically went through the zones in that game until you hit top level and opened everything up. So I would rather have a major storyline progressing through leveling as well that continued at top when you got to max level. So I'm happy with that. There were some screenshots of some zones and stuff, but there's going to be a deep dive later today. So there will be another World of Warcraft video where I'll be delving a lot deeper into certain things. This is going to kind of be a little bit superficial. Then, if I jump to my next tab code, there's a guy in the crowd. Oh, yeah, because I've gone to the wrong one. So, hi, guy in the crowd. Hi, guy in the crowd. I need to go to 1242 now. There's the next one. Okay. Jumping all over the place in this video. Right, covenants. Each of the zones has a covenant. These are the names of them in the respective zones. The Kirans in Bastion, the Necrolords in Maldraxxus, the Night Fae in Oldenveld, and the Venthril in Revendreth. Okay, so as you go through the leveling process, you're going to borrow powers from these covenants. But when you hit maximum level, you're going to have to select one of the covenants to support. And the reason why is when you hit top level, each of the covenants have their own individual storyline. going forward. I like that. I like it because it gives at least, your character and 3 alts the opportunity to experience 4 stories at top level. So I think that gives a good, decent amount of depth, of content for people to deal with. Even if I'm not massively on the alt train, but, that's how it is. And they each represent different powers. The Kyrians, for instance, they're sort of like the Valkyrie / spirit healers. So what you would do is you'd be taken to one of these zones if you just normally died. And then for, I don't know, maybe even millennia, you would contemplate on your life, reflect, and all this kind of stuff, and you would eventually take the position of a spirit healer or a Valkyrie, depending on, which area you got sent to. So there's some interesting concepts as regards to the afterlife in World of Warcraft, which I like. Next, I had it, and then I lost it, and then I got it back, because yeah, boy. So the Covenant systems, a full endgame narrative campaign as discussed, 2 active abilities. You'll get 1 ability that's specific to the Covenant, and then you'll get 1 class specific ability as well. And these abilities, I think you've got these soul binds, which is kind of like the AP progression system, although there's going to be no AP grinding in this expansion. And I tell you what, that got a massive pop. Like, a massive pop in the studio. Literally, a bigger pop than some of the game announcements. Where people were told, you're not going to have to grind AP in this expansion. But it's going to give you little perks, etc., etc. And they can be altered and tweaked and changed. So next, let's move on again. We have the Covenant system. So full endgame narrative campaign, 2 active abilities, class ability, endgame progression system, soulbinds. You're going to get a load of cosmetic rewards as well, depending on which one you selected, which Covenant you selected. And, the objective is to, when it says restore the Covenant to all its glory, the reason why these Covenants are in need of help is because in recent years on Azeroth, all the souls have just been going straight into the Maw instead of being distributed amongst the various Covenants. So all the Covenants are starved of souls, they're starved of this anima, and so they're starting to not fail, but they're starting to get weaker and weaker, while the Maul is getting stronger and stronger. And I get onto the Maul in a bit. I'm not massively happy about it. Let's get on to the next one, which is the city. So there is the Oribos, which is going to be the hub city for the Horde and the Alliance. Let me just shift that across a little bit there. So nobody knows how the city was created. It predates all memories. Who did it? What did it? How did it? All they know is that the Arbiter stands at its core and judges, or used to at least, judge the souls which came in, but of course now they're all going into the Maw. There's a bunch of brokers and soul traders from different dimensions as well. They all come here to trade. Soul trading is a bit of a thing that's going on. And yeah, as Horde and Alliance will be here because of course there is the tentative treaty. So now let's deal with the Maw, which I got issues with. Okay. So, this is as I mentioned, the prison for the, the worst of the worst. Nothing escapes from the Maw, right? This is the one simple rule. Nothing escapes from the Maw. This was made very clear by Ian. Apart from, we immediately escape from the Maw when we arrive in Shadowlands. And that, to me, already weakens the impression of the Maw. Now, apparently, we're going to lose a lot of people along the way, and they're not going to be able to escape the Maw, but we are. So there's going to be big heroes that are going to be trapped in there. Who knows? Jaina might be trapped in there, etc., etc. But Thrall and all that sort of stuff. But when we've already managed to get out, it loses a lot of its mystique, so to speak. So to say nobody escapes from the mall, but you did, I don't know. I think it could have been dealt with better. I think we could have been deflected away from the mall instead of being funneled in like all the other... Well, we're alive when we're going in anyway. We're not a soul. So I think they could have just dealt with that slightly differently. But it's the domain of the jailer. And as we'll get to soon, this is where things get a little bit wibbly-wobbly. So let's move to the next part of the discussion, 21-28, if you want to play along at home. Me. Trying to line up these things here. Sylvanas. Oh, this woman is driving me crazy. You know me, I'm not a fan of Sylvanas. Her powers have not been in any way, shape or form explained where she's got them from until now. And this is a problem. This is a problem. When you don't give any setup and you only give payoff, it doesn't come across as good writing. It comes across as lazy. So we discover that Sylvanas isn't being controlled by the old gods, isn't being controlled by anything at all. Everything that she's doing is of her own volition. She is in league with the jailer of the mall, and he is providing her, or it really, I suppose, is providing her with her increase of powers. No setup at all. Terrible writing. It's, honest to God, terrible writing. They have plenty of opportunity through BFA, if they wanted to set this up, to set this in motion. But no, all we saw was Sylvanas just becoming godlike. I could just kill immediately. I can fly into space. I could just kick the Lich King's ass. I can tear holes in the fabric of space and time because I'm Sylvanas and I'm amazing. And everyone's going, how? And then you've got to discover why later on. Setup, payoff, then it's clever. No setup, payoff, lazy ass writing. It's done in hindsight, and it's lazy, and it's poor writing, and it doesn't come across right. And I don't like it, and I don't like it. And what's Sylvanas' role in all this? Well, we know now. Whatever you fucking want it to be. Because she can do anything at all. Anything at all. So, don't like it. Okay, let's move on to the next part. We're jumping to 27-12 now, I think. Unless I'm going to show some other lovely chap in the crowd. So what we've got here. Expansion structure. Okay, so this is the structure of the expansion. So, because the Crown of Damnation has been destroyed, the Scourge are no longer being controlled. That's why there must always be a Lich King. And so they're going to run rampant around Azeroth. Now, we were informed, of course, that the Scourge are more dangerous without a Lich King. They're a pre-expansion event. They're not at all. Let's just be honest. We then make our way to Icecrown. Bolvar is not dead. Bolvar is alive after the cinematic. And he will be helping us to, I think, abridge the planes of existence. And then we will go narratively through the various zones, and you will choose a covenant to progress with. Now then, alts. They've done a big thing for alts. And again, I think it's more important to make sure that your main character has a lot of stuff to do as opposed to just an alt, but here we go. So the way that they're trying to improve the alt experience is, once you've got to top level, chosen a covenant and all that sort of stuff, instead of an alt having to do the same thing over again and making it a very repetitive system, you can now choose whichever zone you want to level in, as opposed to the main character that had to go through a specific, pathway. And you immediately can choose a covenant and immediately start to work on your top level powers. So it just saves a lot of time, I can see it. It's very good for people who are altaholics. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So people who enjoy their alts, they're going to get a better alt experience from this. Now let's talk about stealing from Final Fantasy XIV. Because there's another thing which is being introduced, which is Torghast, Tower of the Damned, Palace of the Dead. No, it is Palace of the Dead. This is a complete lift from Final Fantasy XIV, Palace of the Dead. This is an ever-changing dungeon which is endless in nature. So every time you go in, your first level will always look slightly different. It'll probably have the same assets that have been organized in a different, way. But it's just a complete lift. And you can do it just like Final Fantasy XIV solo or in a group of 4. Okie dokie. And you can earn yourself powers and stuff through it, just like Palace of the Dead. So, look, again, I jest, but at the same time, I think World of Warcraft has needed something like this. It really has. It has needed something along these lines as a fun bit of when I say grindable content, which will always have a tweak in its aesthetic and have the ability for you to work on things. And I think it's very important in an MMORPG that you do get specific tasks to work on specific things. So, yeah, it's a complete and utter lift from Final Fantasy XIV, but at the same time, if you're going to steal something good. They've stolen something good. We were then told there are going to be 8 dungeons at launch, 4 leveling up dungeons, and then 4 dungeons which will arrive at top level. Next piece. I'm not going to stick around too long on that because, that's standard stuff. There's also going to be 1 raid. There wasn't a big pop for that. Not necessarily because people weren't excited for it, but because it's standard WoW stuff. So, systems and rewards. So that their philosophy for this expansion is they want more player agency. Good. Professions are going to get updated somewhat. This is a nice tweak. It's an initial tweak. Ian said, I understand this doesn't fix professions, but it's a nice little tweak. In professions, you can now, instead of crafting, seeing what stats are made, don't like it, destroy it, craft again, not happy, until you get the stats that you want. If you want specific stats, you can craft specific stats. So if you wanted pantaloons with crit and haste, what you would do is you would get your crafting agents, your crafting regents, and then you would get a crit gem and a haste gem and add them to the pattern, and then that would produce the crit haste stats. It's good. Again, I think professions are a long way from being even remotely fun in World of Warcraft. This isn't going to be a monumental change, and I'm not going to pretend that it is, but it is a small step in the right direction. At least it means that crafting can be specific as opposed to just there. Okay, I'm going to specifically use my professions to craft this specific piece of gear. But it just depends how powerful all the other gear is in the outside world. And if it turns out that stuff is way better than the profession stuff, you're back to square one again. So they have to still make a way for professions to be a lot more meaningful in regards to that. And then leveling up. This is a big change. I don't know how people are going to feel about this. I mean, my perception was people aren't too chuffed with the idea of a level squish. But it's coming regardless. And I had heard that Blizzard were going to push ahead with this regardless of feedback. So, if you're top level now, if you're level 120 in World of Warcraft, you're going to start Shadowlands at level 50. And then you're going to level from 50 to 60 in Shadowlands. And every time you level up, and this is good, every time you level up, you're going to get a new skill. You're going to get a new spell. You're going to get something new. So it's going to feel a bit more meaningful. God damn, we haven't had that since what? Level 100? 3 expansions ago? Fucking hell. So that's not good. That's good. At least it means that we're going to start seeing some spells and abilities. I do fear, though, I do have a slight fear that the spells and abilities we're going to get are spells and abilities which were taken away from us. And they're not going to be new ones. There might be a few new ones here or there. But I feel that we might get a bunch of old ones just given back. Who knows? But we'll have to see how this works. And as regards to alts or new characters... Alts, I shouldn't say alts. As regards to new characters or new players, I think Ian has actually got this wrong. From what I heard, level 1 to 10, we're going to go to a level 1 to 10 area. You all start in a new sort of vanguardish area, and you'd learn the basics of the game going from 1 to 10, and then when you hit level 10... you can choose an expansion. Choose an expansion, and then you can level from 10 to 50 in that expansion. And then you'd move to Shadowbringers at level 50. So it gets you much quicker into the action, much quicker at endgame, while at the same time still doing some leveling up and understanding and getting an idea of your core abilities, or if it's a new class that you're playing, the abilities of this new class, etc. So... I would like to see this in action. Of course, I won't be doing any of this for the next 6 months because Blitzchung's ban is still in effect. But I'd like to see that in action to see if it's any good, because conceptually, it sounds good. It sounds different and it sounds interesting. It seems to be a decent way of getting rid of the boredom, the repetitive nature of leveling. And it might be a way for new people to stick around. Because I don't think a lot of new players genuinely stick around. We already know Blizzard have said that 90% of players quit before level 10. New players quit before level 10. Then we've got some appearance changes. Lots of new appearances being brought into the game. They're good. This is a very good tweak. Because let's just be honest, WoW has got probably one of the worst customizations of anything at the moment. Lots of new hairstyles, paints, all this kind of stuff being brought in. People, races looking more like races than they have done. Instead of just this being black-faced, you're actually getting something which looks more like a person of colour, or Asian in this case. No word on whether or not you can adjust the heights. I would say, Blizzard, please... can there be a height adjuster for characters? WoW is such a samey game. A height adjuster would go really well, and you can determine the parameters of the height. But things, if I can just jump back a little bit, might be able to capture. There you go, undead. You know, you don't have to have the bones showing. Yeah, I'll just lower this a bit. Look at the undead. You don't have to have the bones showing if you don't want to. Look, is that Elvira? That's totally Elvira, isn't it? So if you want bones, you can have bones. If you don't want bones, you can cover up and have full skin. China! China in your hand. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So China are going to be really happy with that, considering that's what they've got at the moment. So we're getting what China already has in the World of Warcraft, covered up bones. Now then, I don't know if this is a change, because obviously I haven't spent a lot of time Battle for Azeroth, because sucks. It really sucks. But they did show the trolls here upright, as opposed to bent over. So I don't know if this is a potential change. But lots of different skin color changes, face paint, face paint, body paint that you can do it as well. Good stuff. It's needed, very much needed in a game that lacks so much variety of customization. One of the fun things is customizing your character, especially when it's third-person game. And finally, any race can be a Death Knight now. Any race can be a Death Knight. That's as simple as that. Move on. So there we go. That is the preliminary discussion panel for World of Warcraft Shadowbringers. There does seem potential. There does seem potential. The only problem with WoW, though, is they talk a game, and I think I saw somewhere squirreled away, oh, you can do a bunch of world quests. So I think there are still systems... Oh, I'm trying to wiggle my chair into place. There are still a bunch of systems which I'd, love to see the back of. Because if my endgame content is just going to be dungeons, world quests, and a storyline, it's not going to be particularly fun. So I don't know if they've disguised, if they've disguised the fact that they're just literally going to be reusing old contents for this, on top of the fact that they're making these, cosmetic tweaks. Because a lot of this stuff is not core gameplay stuff. We'll have to see. But there is a deep dive into WoW later today. So I will watch that at some point, and I'll do another video as regards to that. There we go. Hope you enjoyed the vid. It's only half an hour over. If you did, do give it a thumbs up. And also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links, they're in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.